Hey there, welcome back to tutorial number 25. And yeah, today we're going to build a screen like this. I call it road opening screen, and in this road opening screen I'm going to use a Kivy MD Expansion Panel. So as you click on this 3-line avatar list item, it's going to expand out at the bottom of it another 2 lines avatar list item. So I think this widget is pretty cool, and I'm going to show you how you can do this easily. And in this screen, we're going to make use of the data from LTA Datamall, and the section is going to be 2.16 road openings. So it actually returns all the planned road openings in Singapore, and this is the URL that we are going to use. And when you send a GET request to this URL, you're going to get some information like this. For example, the event ID, the start date, end date, department, road name, and other. So what I plan to do is I'm going to show the start date and end date here, and then I'm going to put the road name, and I'm going to put the department, and then the other details here. Okay, so we're going to take this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 different attributes. We're going to leave out the event ID because I think the event ID is not important for the user. User doesn't bother about your event ID. So we're going to put some icon over here, for the expansion panel. And remember in the last tutorial, we actually cover the traffic images with the Kivy MD backdrop. And I hope you still remember that. And I hope your code is also running well. So here, if we now click on the road opening, it's going to crash the app because we haven't created a road opening screen. So I'm going to crash this, and then the first thing that we want to do is, of course, create a class for the screen that we want to create. So if you come to my learndatascienceskill.com, which is my website, tutorial number 25, the first step that you need to do is to create a class for the screen. Then the next step, in the main.kv, we want to include this road opening screen.kv file, which we are going to create later. So I'm just going to put it here. And then under the screen manager, you need to have the screen, road opening screen. And then save it. Then go to the kv folder. Then we want to create a road opening screen.kv. Cool. Then you can copy all this code and paste in the kv file. So as usual, we are going to first have a float layout so that we can use the pause hint and size hint. And in the grid layout, the first grid layout is going to be our this grid layout to have all of our expansion list and panel. The second grid layout is going to be your navigation button at the bottom. So this one will be the second grid layout, which is a row of label button. So I think I don't have to explain this again. You know how to create a label button. So the function of them is to bring you to each respective screen as you click on them. As you release this button. So the first grid layout, we are going to give it the ID of road opening expansion panel. Okay, so later on we are going to refer to this expansion panel, and then we want to add our our expansion panel. Okay. So the next thing we want to do under the change screen function in the main.py, we want to say if the screen name is equal to road opening screen, we want to change the title to road opening. Okay, as usual. Then the second thing, we want to refer to the road opening expansion panel, and then id.box. So I'm going to explain to you what is this. Let me first copy it, go to the main.py, and then in the change screen. Okay. So we want to refer to this self dot row opening expansion panel dot id, but what is this exactly? We haven't defined this at the top, so that is what I want to define in step number 11. Okay, but before I come to that, I promise I will come back to this to explain to you what is this row opening expansion panel. But first we want to since we want to display the row opening data on this screen, of course we need to query the data. So we are going to go to our onStart function, and then we are going to do a row opening query. You can do a query task in the Postman. Just put in your URL and then send a GET request. Make sure you have the API key, and then you are going to get something like this. So in the key value, you are going to get a list of all the row opening events. So what we want to do is to send a GET request to all these events, and then combine them into a list, and then we will check. We actually don't want to display all this information on the screen. We don't want to show the user all the information. What we want to show the user is probably only the data that will be the row opening that is going to happen maybe tomorrow or today. Yeah. So we don't have to show all the future data that is going to happen in the that will be too much. That will slow down your app actually. Okay, so the step 6 is we want to go to onStart, and then we are going to send a row opening query. Oops. Okay, and then we need to define this function, of course, which is step number 7. So let's put this one right above the change screen function. Make sure you have the correct indentation. Excuse me. So on start, this function will be called. So we are going to combine this path as defined in the documentation with the base URL when I is equal to 0. So that means when I is equal to 0, we will not have any skip. Remember, when you send a GET request to LTA Datamall, in one request you can only get 500 pieces of data. So in this case, I have tried out, you need to skip like 1000. That means 2 times in order to get the full amount of data. So in this case, we need to use a for loop from I in range of 0 to 3, which means you will get 0, 1, and 2. If I is equal to 0, we will not have any skip, which means you get the first 500 pieces of data. We will use a URL request here. And then if I is not equal to 0, which means I equal to 1 or 2, then we will have a skip here. Our URL will be different. Then we will skip 500, then we will skip 1000. So for both of them, we are going to send a URL request. On success, is going to call this update total row opening function. And then we are going to append all the response in the key value into this variable, total row opening response. Okay. So as I mentioned before, for loop is definitely not the best solution in this case. You can use while loop. So while you can use a while loop to in that case, you do have to define like this of how many skip you need to do. Leave a comment below if you get a solution of how to define it in while loop. I'm sure you can do that. For this case, for simplicity purpose, I will just use a for loop. Okay. So this total row opening response is going to store all the events here in the list. Okay. And under the class main app, we want to have this variable defined as an empty list. So let's see, put it here. Okay. Oh no, I want to put it here. Yeah, we have total bus store, total bus route, blah blah blah. Okay. And the next thing will be number 9, in which we want to create a file called row_opening.py to create our data. Actually, not data table, is our yeah, I'm gonna change this because I just copy paste it from the last tutorial. It's actually not our data table. We want to create this row_opening.py to create our expansion panel. Okay. So first, create a row_opening.py, and then you copy all this code and put it here. So what I'm going to do later, I'm going to import this class to the main.py, and then I'm going to instantiate it and call the run function. When you call the run function, it's going to build this string, and then it will actually return a scroll view with a grid layout. So this grid layout is going to have an ID called box. Okay, this is where we want to add our expansion panel content. Okay. So as mentioned, I'm going to import this class to the main.py. And then, yeah, during the onStart, I'm going to add this. Okay. So during onStart, we are going to instantiate the row opening, and then we are going to call the run function, and then this variable is defined, row opening expansion panel. Okay, so we add this row opening expansion panel to the row opening screen.id.row opening expansion panel. So this one is actually referring to the grid layout in the row opening screen.kv. So we should add the we add the scroll view and the empty grid layout here to this screen. Okay, to this grid layout of this screen. Okay, so now we have this variable defined, and that explains what is this variable. Okay, so in this variable we can refer the box ID within it. So if you go back to row_opening.py, this is the box ID that we are referring to here. Okay, so later on in this box ID, we are going to add our Kivy MD Expansion Panel. Okay. So next thing we want to do is to create a row opening expansion content.py. Okay. Okay, so there are 2 Python files that we are creating. Actually you can have 2 of them in one single Python file. It's just a different class. Okay. So I'm actually creating them separately. Not traffic news. Okay. So in this row opening expansion content class, I'm going to have a 2-line avatar list item. Okay. This 2-line avatar list item is going to be the content, this expanded content of my expansion panel. Okay. So I need to have this 2-line avatar list item with the image left widget. Okay. Then the first line is going to be the department. Then the second line is going to be other information. Okay. Then I will add this image to this 2-line avatar item, and then we'll add this 2-line avatar item to this class. So this will constitute my expansion content. Okay, but we haven't created the upper part. So what you need to do in the next step will be to import this expansion content class to the main.py, and then we also need to import expansion panel from the Kivy MD. Okay, let's copy this, and then we go to main.py, and then go all the way up and import it here. Okay, so then the next thing is we need to copy this, and then we go down all the way to the change screen function. So if the screen name is equal to row opening screen, we want to have this. Okay, let's see. Make sure you have the right indentation. So let me explain to you what's going to happen here. First, we will check if this row opening screen box ID has got any MD expansion panel or not. Okay, we will check. We actually import this MD expansion panel in the last step. So yeah, from kivymd.urix.expansion panel, we import this expansion panel, and then we also import this expansion panel 3 line. This one is going to be our 3 line list item. Okay, we import these two class. Okay, so we check if there is any MD expansion panel. If yes, then we will remove it. Otherwise, we will continue. Okay, so we want to remove it so that we can create a new one. And then we are going to do some filtering here. Okay, so we are going to use the date time, and then we are going to use the pytz, which is for our time zone. I forgot whether we did import it already at the top. Let me check. Date time pytz. Nope. So actually we can have these two be imported at the top. Let me do it here, probably. Okay, much better. Okay, then we come back here. Okay, so time zone is going to be pytz.timezone ensure Singapore, which is my location. And then 1 day later, with this variable is going to be datetime.now plus time delta 2. So later I'm going to use this variable to check if the date time of the event is less than this or not. So I don't want to display the event in which the start date is more than tomorrow. So if today is 25th of December, I only want to show to the user the row opening event that is on starting on 26th or 25th or below, but not 27, 28, and 29, and so on. Okay, so that's why I use a time delta 2, and then strf time for formatting purpose, and then converting it back to date type object. So for row opening in total row opening response, for each event, I'm converting the row opening start date from a string to a date type object. Then I'm comparing the row opening date type object to my 1 day later date type object. Excuse me. Okay. So if it's less than my 1 day later data object, I'm going to add the widget to my box ID. Okay, so I'm going to add the MD expansion panel. My icon is equal to row opening.png, which is going to be this one. my content is going to be road opening expansion content, which is the Python file that we created just now. And this is going to be a two-line avatar list item. Okay, this is going to be my content. And then I'm going to pass a argument road opening equal to road opening. And therefore here you can use a quotes to refer to the key that you want to use. Okay, this is the example information that is passed here if you print the quotes. Okay, and then the panel class is equal to MD expansion panel 3 line, which is going to be this one. Okay, and then you can define the first line, second line, and third line information. Okay, so in overall, what we are doing is actually we first create a screen, and then we create a scroll view with the MD grid layout, and then in the MD grid layout, which is the box, we create our MD expansion panel, and then in the MD expansion panel you have the MD expansion 3 line, and then you also have the MD expansion content. Okay, yeah, if you are confused, feel free to leave your question below. I will explain it to you again, or feel free to rewatch the video to see how we are actually creating it. Okay, so now I think we can I think we are finished with all the steps, and then we can actually run it. Okay, then you go to traffic, and then you click on road opening. It's taking a little bit of time because there are actually quite a big amount of data, even though we did some filtering. So the best way to handle it is to save all the data into your SQLite database, and then use the SQL to do a query, so that you do have to send a URL request every time the user is loading into this screen. So what you need to do is once in a while you update your database with the latest information, and that will be the better way of doing it. So here I'm just showing you how you can use a URL request to get the information. Okay, so here is our road opening screen. We have a scroll view of expansion panel, and then we'll click on the expansion panel. Is going to lower down to show the data. Okay, so yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, see, we can actually create this Kivy MD Expansion Panel easily. And yeah, if you like the video, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and in the next tutorial we are going to I think we will first keep the parking screen. We will first handle the change theme, and then also the profile picture manager. Okay, these two are going to be some interesting one, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.